They say that revenge is a dish best served cold, but in my line of work, it is best served in a sweltering ballroom with no dinner service. 5 years ago, the man I loved completely destroyed my life, stole my business, and left me buried under mountains of debt. Today, he walked right into my trap by booking his lavish wedding at my luxury resort, completely unaware that I owned the entire place. My name is Clara Vance, and I built the Meridian Crest Resort from the absolute ground up after my first life shattered. My office overlooks a stunning glass atrium on the Florida coast where wealthy elites spend thousands of dollars to feel important. It was a chaotic Tuesday morning when my events manager walked in with a massive corporate folder and a very concerned expression on her face. A shell corporation wanted to book a full buyout for a massive wedding over the holiday weekend. As I scanned the internal paperwork, my blood turned to pure ice when I saw the names of the couple. The groom was Weston Gable, a former fiancé who had secretly drained our shared accounts and abandoned me for his younger intern years ago. He thought he had successfully erased me from his perfect new reality. My manager asked if we should reject the booking because she knew a small part of my painful history. I looked out the window at my beautiful property and felt a dark sense of satisfaction wash over me. I told her to approve the contract immediately and send them our most expensive welcome basket. There was a specific clause in our rules that allowed me to terminate any event without a refund. 2 weeks later, the happy couple arrived for their official venue walkthrough to finalize the details. I put on a standard employee uniform, clipped on a basic staff name tag, and waited in the grand ballroom. Weston walked in while shouting into his phone, looking exactly like the arrogant man who had discarded me. Beside him was Savannah, his new bride, who radiated a toxic and demanding energy. Savannah complained about the stunning Italian drapes and demanded that they be completely covered because they looked depressing to her. Weston did not even look at me when his gaze swept across my face because he considered service workers invisible. I lowered my voice and pretended to be a simple logistics coordinator while taking notes on their absurd demands. They treated my junior staff like absolute garbage during the entire hour. The tension peaked when Savannah threw a heavy silver salad fork onto the table with a loud clang. She snapped that the arrangement looked cluttered and demanded that the guests use the same fork for multiple courses. When I gently mentioned that this would confuse the kitchen staff, she whipped around and told me that my only job was to move heavy tables. Weston just sighed and told me to do whatever she wanted. After they left, I met with my lead attorney on the second floor to review the signed contract. We discovered that the deposit check was actually signed by the corporate accountant of Weston, who happened to be his former mistress. He was using investor funds to pay for his personal wedding while claiming it was a corporate retreat. This financial fraud gave me the legal right to cancel everything, but I wanted a total checkmate. My attorney advised me to send the cancellation letter immediately to avoid any potential legal complications later. I told him that I wanted Weston to publicly violate the venue rules during the actual celebration instead. If I cancelled the event now, he would just play the victim and find another luxury hotel down the street. I needed his own arrogance to destroy him while the house was watching every single move. The wedding day arrived with extreme coastal humidity and incredible tension behind the scenes. The ballroom looked truly spectacular with white orchids hanging from the ceiling and a live jazz band playing softly. I wore a sophisticated charcoal jumpsuit and stood near the main bar, watching the wealthy guests mingle. Weston was already drunk on expensive scotch, laughing loudly with his friends while Savannah monitored the photographer's angles. During the appetizer service, an elderly housekeeper named Maria accidentally stepped near the massive dress of Savannah while carrying a heavy tray. Savannah recoiled in disgust and loudly screamed that the staff was an infestation that almost ruined her expensive gown. Maria apologized with her head down, but Savannah continued to hiss insults at her. My blood boiled with a cold rage because my staff was my chosen family. A few minutes later, Savannah saw me sitting briefly at an empty table to inspect the quality of the appetizers. She marched over with pure disdain, grabbed the plate out of my hands, and told me that staff belonged in the kitchen. Weston stood nearby and looked at my face for a brief second, but his drunk mind failed to recognize me. Savannah handed my plate to a waiter and ordered him to throw it away. I stood up slowly, folded my napkin perfectly, and decided that it was time to unleash total chaos. I walked out of the ballroom and ordered my manager to immediately activate Emergency Protocol 0. I entered the bustling kitchen and commanded every single chef to turn off the ovens and set down their tools. The main course was officially cancelled, and I told my relieved staff to start eating the wedding food. I went up to my executive office and used the smart building application to completely shut down the ballroom air conditioning. It was a hot evening, and a room packed with 200 people would become a swamp within minutes. I also ordered security to suspend the valet service and bring all the guest vehicles to the front driveway. I watched the ballroom camera feed as the wealthy crowd began to sweat profusely. Down in the sweltering room, Savannah stood at the microphone to deliver a speech while guests fanned themselves with menus. She loudly bragged about how Weston had escaped his past business partnerships that lacked his grand vision. She openly mocked his past life, calling it a discount bin compared to her high tax bracket. Right as she raised her glass for a toast, the microphone completely died and the music stopped. The guests began to panic about the heat and the total lack of food as the kitchen remained dark. My manager walked up to the head table and whispered that the owner requested the presence of Weston in the courtyard. Weston slammed his napkin down and stormed outside, loudly shouting that he was going to fire every single employee. I stood waiting by the stone fountain in the dim light of the gas lanterns. When Weston saw my face clearly under the lantern light, he stopped breathing and his jaw dropped in horror. He stammered my name in complete disbelief and asked what I was doing at the resort. I stepped forward and informed him that I did not work here, but rather that I owned every single brick. He tried to laugh it off and accused me of being a jealous ex-fiancée who was ruining his day. I explained the corporate fraud policy and reminded him that his new bride had just insulted the actual owner of the property. Savannah then marched into the courtyard, sweating heavily with her makeup completely running down her face. She screamed at Weston for talking to the help, but he weakly informed her that I owned the entire hotel. Savannah froze in absolute shock as I handed them the official eviction notice. I told them they had 10 minutes to leave before the police arrived to arrest them for criminal trespass. Security guards began politely guiding their confused guests out to the driveway where their luggage was already stacked on the curb. A popular social media influencer captured the entire chaotic scene on her phone as Savannah sobbed loudly. Weston hung his head in total defeat and dragged his bags into the humid night. We opened the top shelf of the bar for the staff that night, celebrating our victory inside the commercial kitchen. The next morning, the video went viral with millions of views, causing our hotel reservations to skyrocket by 400%. I sat on my balcony, watching the beautiful ocean, knowing that the past was finally settled. The kitchen is where the knives are kept, and we definitely knew how to use them.